Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Really glad you're with us for the Wednesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Your stool awaits. And Jim, it's all crazy martinis for conservatives today. And we start in the Sunshine State, where politics are heating up for the 2022 cycle. Folks are looking at the governor's race. They're looking at the Senate race. And Ron DeSantis officially has at least one Democrat of prominence in the race to defeat him next year. Of course, they have to go through a primary process, since there will almost inevitably be more than one candidate. But that first candidate in is Charlie Crist, the former Republican governor turned Republican turned independent Senate candidate in 2010. Got beat by Marco Rubio in the Senate race that year. Then he ran for governor as a Democrat against Rick Scott in 2014. Was competitive but lost, and then eventually won himself a House seat as a Democrat, where he's been pretty much toiling in anonymity ever since, if he's been toiling at all. So he wants a little more attention, wants his old job back. So his argument is that Ron DeSantis is more worried about his future than the future of Floridians. Says he's done a horrible job on COVID, which flies completely in the face of the data on how Florida has fared compared to the golden children of Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo and so forth. So, Jim, I mean, the knives are out for DeSantis all over the Democratic Party, but clearly that's going to be the message from Charlie Crist in this campaign, as well as Val Demings. If she runs for governor, she might be running against Rubio. She put out a promotional video yesterday, so she's clearly running for something. And then the agricultural commissioner, Nikki Fried, who is clearly the biggest far-left bomb thrower in statewide elected office in Florida, is likely to get into this thing as well. So what do you make of Charlie Crist reinventing himself one more time?
You know, if you want to do the old joke, like a bad penny, he always turns up. It fits because he's the color of a bad penny. But what's more, I was looking this up because you mentioned, yes, he's got, people don't realize just how long Charlie Crist has been in Florida politics. I had to check it up. His first bid for office was in 1986, a state Senate seat in Pinellas County. So for perspective, I think I was in, I'll be 10 or 11, so 5th or 6th grade, just around there, Now, he didn't get elected to office till 1992 when I was a senior in high school. And, for you, if you have any doubts about whether that was that long ago, that was my back, everyone. That's how old I'm feeling these days. So Charlie Crist has been around politics for a really long time. And if you're Ron DeSantis, I mean, maybe he felt kind of reassured by this, because if you're going to run against somebody, it's pretty good to run against a guy who could not win the Republican Senate primary in 2010, lost to this kid named Marco Rubio that almost nobody had heard of, at least when that cycle had begun. He ran as an independent that year, then lost that bid. Then he said, okay, well, he's going to run for governor as a Democrat, and he does not succeed in that. So he eventually ends up in the House of Representatives. He finds a fairly, a fairly easy district, although apparently it's not a hugely Democratic district. It's kind of close, and his departure to the gubernatorial race does open up fairly low-hanging fruit for the Republicans to win that race. But I guess it's a part of me that could see, if you're Ron DeSantis, maybe you do want to run against Charlie Crist and say, oh man, this is the guy, everybody's figured out how to beat this guy. I can do this. He represents the past. He represents the old way of doing things. He represents what Floridians have said time and time again, at least in statewide races, they don't want this. And so you got to feel pretty good. And you also got to figure that, maybe even Democrats are getting tired of nominating Charlie Crist. I just kind of marvel at how he just keeps coming back cycle after cycle, even after, doing those kind of ridiculous law firm ads and all that kind of stuff. There's just relentless, all-consuming ambition here. He can't just go off and be happy in the House of Representatives. It seems pretty clearly that the House seat was kind of a place for him to park himself until he could run again statewide. Greg, I don't have enormous amounts of fear that Floridians are going to elect Charlie Crist the next governor. But I suppose stranger things have happened. And so, you probably have a decent amount of fundraising, and he's nationally known and all that kind of stuff. But the fact that, there's this vaguely Terminator-esque determination that, Charlie Crist, He can't be negotiated with. He can't be talked with. He just is always going to keep running cycle after cycle until he wins what he wants. And that's probably going to be for the harm of the Democratic Party. But I get tired of having to look at this guy every 2 years.
Yes, he defeated Republican David Jolly for that seat in the 13th House District in 2016. So apparently this is a seat where Republicans who hate being Republicans tend to flock, because David Jolly is pretty much out there bashing Republicans any chance he can get as well. And of course, Charlie Crist is predominantly orange. But Jim, the transformation politically shows he has true chameleon type tendencies here, because, I mean, well, he wasn't exactly what you would call the most dyed-in-the-wool conservative back when he was a Republican. He was conservative, mildly conservative at least, on most issues. And now he's as mainstream, frightening left as you can get. So the circumstances fit the priorities, I guess.
You know, Greg, I'm just going to make one last kind of example. I guess maybe one of the reasons I feel exhausted about Charlie Crist running for governor again is that I'm not sure there's that much left to say. One of my all-time favorite pieces for National Review ran in early 2014. They allowed me to go with kind of a fiction that kind of illustrates a point, in which the opening sentence is, in a development that stunned the Florida political scene and quantum physicists, the Charlie Crist from the year 2010 traveled forward in time to campaign against the gubernatorial bid of Charlie Crist in 2014. Because Charlie Crist in 2010 was positioning himself as this conservative governor. By 2014, not only had he switched parties, he was running explicitly endorsing all these ideas that he had denounced 4 years earlier. And the great irony that in this article that I had, so I point out, the time travel concept is fiction, but everything else in that story was, an accurate summary and accurate quotes of what things he had said about the various issues. The closing line of that article was, amid flashes of light and intense wind, a second time portal opened, and the Charlie Crist of 2018 appeared, denouncing Charlie Crist of 2014 for being too centrist and insufficiently progressive. So I nailed it, Greg. I actually forecast that he was going to go even further to the left. So Charlie Crist believes in one clear principle, and it's that he should be governor.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Keep your eye on Val Demings, though. I don't know which office she's going to run for, but it's already pretty clear from the reaction to her non-specific promotional video yesterday that she will be one of the darlings of the media in the 2022 cycle. I don't know if she'll reach Beto status, but there's going to be a lot of soft coverage of her for whatever race she runs for. All right, let's talk about our great sponsor today, Gabi, and let's save some money. Might as well do it in as many ways as possible, and you can do it on your car and homeowner's insurance. And we want to find the lowest rate for the best coverage, right? I know I do. So I put my policy to the test and turned to Gabi. You can do the same thing for free. And look, Gabi literally stands for Get a Better Insurance.
Now, getting better insurance with Gabi means a better price for the same insurance coverage you already have. Who knew something like this even existed? But they are the one true comparison platform with real rates. They give you an apples-to-apples comparison of your current coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers. And we're talking about companies like Progressive and Nationwide and Travelers. And it's all in one place. You just use your current insurance information to get started. And in just minutes, you'll be able to see quotes for the exact same coverage that you currently have. And it's free to use. Now, Gabi customers save $961 per year on average, and they will never sell your information. So there's no more annoying spam or robocalls.
Jim just mentioned like 3 or 4 fabulous reasons to use Gabi. A, it's free. B, they never sell your info. It's quick. It's so easy. You just go to the site. You enter very simple information, most of which is probably already in your head. You don't even have to look it up. Then you link to your insurance policy, and they'll find you the best rate for the same coverage. So you get quality coverage at a great rate. It's quick and it's free. I mean, what more could you possibly ask for? Put your policy to the test like I did. Get a better insurance with Gabi. Totally free to check. No obligation. Go to Gabi.com/martini. That's GABI.com/martini. Gabi.com/martini. All right, Jim, let's move on to our second crazy martini now. And Tony Fauci is striking again, saying we're only in the, the bottom of the 6th in terms of our response to the pandemic. I'm not sure how we got that specific, but the CDC, not to be outdone, Centers for Disease Control, putting out its list of guidance for summer camps, camps that are largely outside for kids and counselors. Here are some of the restrictions. Everyone at the camp, including staff and every kid over the age of 2, do 2-year-olds go to summer camp? I don't know. Must wear masks at all times unless they are eating or swimming. They should wear 2 layers of masks, especially when social distancing is difficult, regardless of whether activities are indoors or outdoors. Campers should be placed in cohorts, and their interaction with people outside the cohort must be limited. There should be at least 3 feet between campers of the same cohort and 6 feet between campers of different cohorts. Staff should keep 6 feet away from campers at all times, whether inside or outside. Distance should be maintained while eating, napping, or riding the bus. The CDC suggests seating kids in alternating rows. The use of physical objects that might be shared among kids, toys, art supplies, electronics, should be limited wherever possible. And camps should not permit close contact sports and indoor sports, and should require masks regardless. We know that the kids do well even if they get COVID, but it's outdoors, it's in the sunshine, the numbers are going down. These people just simply don't want this to stop.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and just kind of scratching my head, because I remember thinking this last summer, right around this time, saying, well, okay, at least there'll be camps, kids will be outdoors, they'll be getting a lot of sunshine, there's lots of air circulation. Despite what that lunatic who dressed up as the Grim Reaper was saying down in Florida, being outdoors and in sunshine is just about the safest thing you could do during this pandemic. The last thing you want to do is cancel all the summer camps and keep all the kids indoors. Naturally, many places, including Authenticity Woods, canceled almost all of their summer camps, not quite all of them. The idea of, when you see the recommendation, not just wear masks, okay, I'm not 100% sure that's necessary, but fine. But the recommendation that they wear 2 layers of mask. Okay, now you're just messing with me. Now you're just trying to come up with, ridiculous ones. I guess that's the first thing is, like, if we've figured out how to make education work in school for most kids here in Authenticity Woods, it's 4 days a week. You hear that, listeners? It's quiet. It's quiet in my house. There are no kids running around. If we can make this work in schools, I'm really not sure why it would be so much more difficult to do at summer camps, because most classes are not outdoors. Most classes do not have the air circulation you're going to get in most camp locations. I suppose some schools may have pools for swimming, but by and large, you're going to find a lot more of that at a summer camp. This should be easier than reopening the schools. And yet somehow these CDC recommendations there, I do think it was kind of interesting that Fauci, who couldn't really give a terribly full-throated endorsement of these rules, said something along the lines of stay tuned, or kind of suggest that this could be altered. Maybe he himself is not 100% on board with this. I don't know if that's reading too much into it. Now, as many people have pointed out, that, like, look, is there a risk to kids? Look, I'm not going to say there's no risk to kids, but the risk to kids is significantly small. As many people point out, more kids will drown in a given year than will have died of COVID-19. Vaccines work where it sounds like we're on the verge of getting vaccinations available for kids like 12 to 15. I think most states are now doing it as young as 16. You add it all up, we're in pretty good shape. And, oh, by the way, all the counselors should be able to be vaccinated. All the counselors and every other staff and, janitors and anybody else who's going to be around the facility, they're all vaccinated. So we should be okay. We really should be in pretty good shape with just a little bit of common sense. And, it's kind of interesting that New York Magazine does this interview with a whole bunch of health experts who call it cruel, irrational, and virtue signaling. These are not this is not quibbling words here. So it's really kind of infuriating to see this. Hopefully you see some adjustments to it, but it's May. I imagine a bunch of summer camps are going to start in late June, so there's not a heck of a lot of time to revise these sorts of things. I hope the kids have a good summer. They deserve one. It's good to see they require, they say masks are allowed to, you don't have to wear masks when you're swimming or when you're eating. So kids, just spend a lot of time swimming and eating this summer. But remember, don't go swimming for 30 minutes until after you finish eating.
The goalposts just keep moving all the time. Of course, there was the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then we had to get the numbers further down, and then we had to wait for the vaccine, and then the adults had to get vaccinated, and now somehow the kids have to all get vaccinated, which means the school year next year could be disrupted in a number of places. And now we've got this for outdoor activities. I mean, it's just never ending where the goal line or the goalpost or whatever metaphor you want to use keeps moving to here. And my personal favorite of these, Jim, is that staff should keep away from campers 6 feet at all times. So if Bobby is beating the snot out of Timmy, all you can do is yell at him to stop, because if you break that 6 feet radius...
Hey, you guys, social distance, 3 feet apart, okay? Don't throw punches, throw rocks. That's safer.
It's like the old Robin Williams thing you mentioned a few days ago. Stop hitting him, or I'll tell you to stop hitting him again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about something far more rational than that, and that's the deal you can get on great towels at MyPillow. I love the towels from MyPillow. They're super, super absorbent. They're very soft. They're big. I like that. And it takes almost no time at all to dry off after the shower. So wrap yourself up in the soothing, soft feel of a MyPillow towel. And get this, right now, the 6-piece towel sets, regularly $109.99, now on sale for just $44.98 when you go to MyPillow.com and enter the code Martini.
MyPillow towel sets are made from proprietary technology that makes them highly absorbent and soft without that lotiony feel. They're made with cotton that is grown right here in the United States. They're available in a variety of colors. They come with a 60-day money-back guarantee, a 1-year limited warranty, and each set includes 2 bath sheets, 2 hand towels, and 1 2-pack washcloth.
So just go to MyPillow.com and click on the radio listener square, enter the promo code Martini, or call 800-874-0104. While you're there, take advantage of the deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets, the MyPillow Premium pillows, and the new My Slippers. Get your MyPillow 6-piece towel set for only $44.98, but you can only do that with our promo code Martini. So use it when you call 800-874-0104 or when you visit MyPillow.com today. All right, Jim, the cable news, particularly the lefty cable news, but really all over the board today, absolutely obsessed with Facebook's decision on whether to allow President Trump back onto the platform. And ultimately, they decided to keep him off of it, but they are going to review things. And so, while it seems permanent, we don't know whether the policy will change overall. And there could be a very meaningful, serious debate about free speech, what should be allowed on these platforms, what powers the platforms ought to have, depending on various speech. I personally think more speech is better than less speech, and that certainly applies to the former president of the United States. And the coverage is less about whether this is a good policy. It's just tabloidy type coverage about Trump, because the media doesn't know what to do, I'm convinced, unless they've got a story about Trump. And, you know, the vast majority of them are looking for any reason to bash the guy. And so they're out there with almost like waiting for a jury verdict, waiting for Facebook's decision here on Trump's Facebook status. And now it's going to consume most of the media oxygen, it would appear, on some of these channels for at least the bulk of the day and maybe longer.
So I hate to say this, but Greg, there really is quite a bit to unpack here. And I say this because, so first of all, you had the decision that came out today. I kind of feel like the arguments of, well, they're a private company, they have a right to let her. Okay, nobody's really disputing that. Nobody's really, disagreeing with that notion. But the problem is, at some point, does a social media company become something equivalent to a public square? Does Facebook not allowing anyone from Joe Schmo to a former president to use their platform, to use the thing that they remember, they touted themselves as being open to the world. It's, we're talking about Facebook, but this pretty much applies to YouTube and Twitter and almost every other form of social media. When they launch themselves, they don't say, we're the social media network for debate within certain parameters. You're allowed to use our platform as long as we think your viewpoint is okay. No, they're not like none of them. They say we connect you to the world, right? So there's this little bit of disingenuousness in how they promoted themselves and how they saw their role and how their role has evolved over time. But maybe they didn't expect this. Maybe they genuinely didn't realize that bad people might want to use their platforms too, and they're scrambling to catch up. Fine. It's a complicated world. They made their decision today that they're not bringing Trump back, at least not anytime soon. Fine. They have that authority. But what's kind of a little interesting is that they set up this oversight board, right? Two odd stories about the oversight board. The first one is that right here on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today, Facebook's secret rule book confounds penalized users. I think if you're a social media network and you want to have saying, look, there's certain, we allow a whole bunch of kind of speech, but there's certain kind of speeches that we either find completely inappropriate and it's just not what we set up our platform to enable. We're going to say, no, you can't do that. Fine. Just make it really clear and apply that consistently. Now, obviously, we've talked about the examples of the, I think it was a European art museum where there was a nudity in one of the paintings of the wall. So it was taken down because it has nudity and it's kind of, ridiculous. I suspect artificial intelligence generated bad responses and things like that. So that's problem one, is that you're not clear about it. But the second thing is they make their decision today, and Facebook has this oversight board, which is designed to kind of wise, lawyers and free speech advocates and all kinds of people to examine this. Here's their decision today. The board has upheld Facebook's decision on January 7th, 2021 to restrict then President Donald Trump's access to posting content on his Facebook page and Instagram account. However, it was not appropriate for Facebook to impose the indeterminate and standardless penalty of indefinite suspension. Facebook's normal penalties include removing the violating content, imposing a time-bound period of suspension, or permanently disabling the page and account. The board insists that Facebook review this matter to determine and justify a proportionate response that is consistent with the rules that are applied to other users of this platform. Facebook must complete this review in a matter within 6 months of the date of this decision. The board has also made policy recommendations for Facebook to implement in developing clear, necessary, and proportionate policies that promote public safety and respect freedom of expression. So they kind of came out and said, hey, this is as arbitrary and capricious as it seems to be. Now we'll see what happens from Facebook in 6 months. But it's one of those things, like, I kind of credit them for putting out the this critical response of their oversight board. But now you're left scratching your head and you say, well, maybe we should have talked to the oversight board before we made this decision. What's the point of having an oversight board if you're going to ignore them? And we'll see what kind of response they get. And it's always entirely possible that Facebook management will say, go pound sand. We've decided we don't want the president on this platform. We felt like he was completely out of line back in January 2021, and he's never coming back. I mean, if they want to do that, fine. They can. They're free to do that, but they also, I think they understand they're going to take a significant hit in that there are a whole bunch of supporters of the president who will see it as Facebook treating the president unfairly. And if you're willing to take that hit, fine, go ahead and do with it. But don't do this little dance. We're like, well, maybe we'll bring you back, but maybe we won't. We're going to review it longer. And this endless. It reminds me of endless Friedman units, to refer to former New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman, who kept insisting the next 6 months in Iraq would determine the course of the country. And you could go back and check every 6 months. He said the next 6 months were the most important ones. I suspect that Facebook will be reviewing Donald Trump and what to do with him for at least one more Friedman unit, Greg.
Jim, never dull. Talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos, Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Please do subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch podcast if you haven't already. We're also very grateful for your kind reviews and your 5-star ratings. Thank you so much. Also, get us on those home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. And follow us on Twitter. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great Wednesday, and please join us Thursday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.
Hi, it's Dana Lash, host of The Dana Show. Every day, I'm here to keep you up to speed on the most important stories and info that you need to know in your very busy life. And if you're always on the go and you want to stay connected, just download our daily podcast and take it with you. It's a great way to get up to speed on what you need to know and what legacy media may not be telling you. Visit danaradio.com and click on the podcast link, or subscribe at iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.